Alright, hello and welcome to another video. This is going to go over the character that I'm playing currently in the 327 Keepers League. I'm playing a Adorned mana stacking Hierophant using Kinetic Blast with Clustering alongside the new, really busted Foulborn unique Choir of the Storm. So there's a new Foulborn version of Choir of the Storm in this league that gives mana is increased by 50% of overcapped lightning res, which is really insane. It's one of the most powerful items I've seen them add in a while, just like purely scaling wise. Like the ceiling of this item is so insane that, yeah, I really want to try it out. And I'm using Kinetic Blast with Clustering because I just really like Kinetic Blast. This is a Wonder League, so you know I've played Wonders on this channel before, and I'd happily do it again. So yeah, Kinetic Blast with Clustering was not very difficult to convince me to play. And a couple of other things that pulled me towards Kinetic Blast with Clustering specifically. So they changed a Runegraph this league. So now the Runegraph of Refraction gives you fire at most one projectile and then +1 chain, +1 fork. This is you know, it sounds kind of bad, but with specifically Kinetic Blast with Clustering, this is really busted, because Kinetic Blast with Clustering, if you don't know how it works, fires at most one projectile, so the downside, quote-unquote, on this Runegraph is completely nullified, and basically just makes it give you Chain and Fork at the small cost of 1 mastery, which is very cool. And then, of course, they added a bunch of new tools to Wonders, so of course, Kinetic Blast has always been pretty weak single target, but really good clear, which has meant that usually Wonders had to do like 2 different skills, one for single target, one for clear, which never felt that good. Gives you a bunch of socket pressure. Now this league, they added the new Wall of Force gem, which lets you put down a wall on the ground, which will collide with your Kinetic Blast projectiles and cause them to spawn explosions wherever you wish. This, once you get used to it, gives a really nice boost to single target, which is very cool. So that is basically, it's basically like the old Frost Wall Kinetic Blast interaction from years and years ago, if you're old like me and remember that. But yeah, it's really good. That gem is not as busted as that because they put a bunch of limiters in, so it's pretty balanced, but it is pretty cool. It works actually really well with specifically Kinetic Blast with Clustering, because the way the Wall of Force is limited is it has a max amount of hits it can take before it disappears. And if you have like a normal skill that fires a bunch of different projectiles, like say a untransfigured Kinetic Blast, that'll just instantly hit the wall a bunch of different times and it'll instantly fade the wall. But the way Kinetic Blast with Clustering works, where it's only one projectile but a bunch of different explosions, each wall actually lasts for a really long time because you'll never get, you know, one hit in there. So yeah, multiple things played towards me playing Kinetic Blast Clustering, and yeah, those were some of them. As for the character itself, right now, I mean, I've mostly been farming the Invigoration Blight strategies, like the really juice 16.5 Blights, where you just build green towers everywhere and they get Omega buff the mobs. Clear is obviously really good in this character. Survivability is really good now. It has some nice levels of avoidance, and it also has pretty good single target now. I have no idea what the actual estimate for the single target is, because I'm not even going to pretend to know how to estimate the amount of hits with Kinetic Blast in POE. It's almost like Spark in that way, where the only way to get like a reliable, like accurate number of hits would be if someone like actually built a simulator for Kinetic Blast hits, because it's just, yeah, it's so uncontrollable. So I've not even tried to estimate it, but this thing does one phase Ubers. So single target is actually good on this character right now, and I still have plenty of ways to go scaling wise. As for the character itself, I've actually been grinding this league kind of a lot, and this video is a bit later than I usually do the first video of a league, so this character's going to be a bit further along than normal, so it's going to be quite geared. I still have plenty of ways to go scaling-wise, but, you know, if you've seen videos on this channel before, you know sort of the MO here. I don't really do league starter stuff. I mostly do the sort of min-maxy, you know, number tweaking stuff, because that's what I think is fun, and I'm not really very good at league starting stuff anyway. I usually just copy someone else's. If you want to know how to like league start a character like this, I would go to Palstron and look at his stuff. He also league started a Kinetic Blast Clustering Hierophant and did some really good stuff for that. So we basically started the exact same way the first few days, so you can just follow that and that'll be really good. Alright, so here is the character in game. You can see we have a bunch of mana, so almost 17k mana, you know, 15k ES, pretty good. Currently 99, work towards 100. So let's go over sort of what the character is. So if you're not familiar with Kinetic Blast or Clustering, this is what the gem is. It's a transfigured version of Kinetic Blast. Kinetic Blast is a, you know, projectile attack skill where you fire out some projectiles, and whenever they collide with anything, they spawn a bunch of explosions. Infamously, a very good clearing skill. Kinetic Blast or Clustering works a bit differently, as I mentioned earlier. Instead of having a bunch of different projectiles, the modifier to number of projectiles instead applies to the number of explosions with the skill, and you only ever fire one projectile. So by default, if I turn off my thing here, it looks like this, which is very anemic. But then, of course, the general, you know, tech that, you know, you use with skill is you put Spellslinger with a tornado setup. So whenever you attack, it spawns up tornado, and then your skill forks off of the tornado, and suddenly you get explosions everywhere, and it feels really good. It's a general outline of Kinetic Blast Clustering. And then, of course, the gem itself has a innate mana scaling built into it, so it has deals added flat fizz equal to 18% of your max mana. So this is where we get all our flat damage from, because of course we have a lot of mana, so we get a ton of fizz out of that. And it's actually really cool having a skill that does just pure fizz damage, because mods like the gain fizz as extra become extremely powerful, because of course if all their damage is fizz, this just reads 46% extra damage, 41% extra damage, 51% extra damage, and suddenly stuff like this Maven one becomes very, very, very powerful. So that's where we get all our flat from, is the just gem itself, and then the percentage is scaled by the Indigon. So I've done Indigon builds on this channel before, but general gist of Indigon is it makes your skills cost more and more and more depending on how much mana you spent recently, and then the more mana you spent recently gives you more and more increased spell damage. So after you spent enough mana, it caps out at 2000% spell damage. So if you can support it, then this helmet reads 2000% increased spell damage, which is very powerful because because Kinetic Blast is a 1 skill and has that classic increases and reductions to spell damage, also applies attack damage from the skill at 200% of their value. So that 2000% spell damage from the Indigon becomes 4000% increased attack damage. So that is how the damage scales. Is generally just flat from the gem and then percentage from the Indigon. You of course have to solve Indigon on the character, because of course you get a bunch of increased mana calls on this, and you have to solve the recovery layers of it. Multiple ways of doing that on these sort of setups. Of course, this is not my tech or anything, but general ways of doing it is you use the chance to recover mana when you use a skill. Mastery here, you also get it on Watcher's Eye, and then of course you have a bunch of mana leech, and then you can do other stuff like you can slot an inspiration in, which will give you cost reduction, which will help out quite a bit. Slowing the ramp, you can get different divines on the Indigon, and they're like base item. You can get there's a pair of gloves you can get that like refunds mana, which at a cost of max mana, which you could also use. But honestly, the main way of solving Indigon is just getting more and more mana. The bigger your pool is, the more the percent mana recovery from when you use a skill gives you back, and of course the more the leech and stuff applies. So just generally increasing your mana pool I've found to be the most effective way of solving Indigon stain issues. But yeah, that's something to keep in mind, because it basically means that you probably don't want to switch this very early. I swapped to this Indigon way too early on my character, I would say, and I had quite a few levels of really awkward gameplay because I just couldn't sustain the mana cost. But yeah, once you have it solved, it's very, very powerful. And then, of course, I'm using the Foulborn Choir of the Storm, as I mentioned before. I think this is an extremely powerful item. It gives you mana equal to half of your overcapped lightning res. So what does that mean? Well, you look at this number, right? So I have 1,046 lightning res right now. So you minus 89% from that, and that is how much overcap you have. And then you half it to get the amount of mana you get. So what that means is that this amulet right now on my character gives 478% increased maximum mana. So yeah, it gives nearly 500% increased max mana on my character right now, and this character has such a long way to go still, scaling wise, that yeah, maybe that gives you a picture of sort of how high this thing really scales. How am I getting all that lightning res? Well, first of all, of course, just getting off suffixes on gear, so all my rare pieces have lightning res on it. Some even have crafted. Then, of course, it's a major build, so yeah, you're using the full bismuth, topaz, and a flask suffix for all res, so this gives you quite a bit of res, but of course that's not enough to give you 1,000. The real thing that makes this, I think, really busted is its interaction with Adorned. So Adorned, of course, is a jewel that increases the effect of magic jewels, corrupted magic jewels, socket into your tree. And what makes it really busted with this amulet in particular is that you can roll abyss jewels that sort of look like this. Of course, you can ignore the implicits, but basically that roll 40 flat max mana and then 15% to lightning res. This is really insane because, of course, with an Adorned, that 40 becomes 80, assuming you have a max rolled one, and that 15 lightning res becomes 30 lightning res, which then becomes 15% increased mana. So the res is basically percent mana 1-to-1 with an Adorned. So basically every single Adorned jewel gives you both flat and percent mana, which makes all these jewels insanely efficient. This is like old pre-nerf Adorned levels of efficiency per jewel here. I actually think that for a lot of builds these days, after they nerf the Adorned from 150 to 100, Adorned isn't really worth it for a lot of characters right now, but for this setup in particular, it's just so good with Choir of the Storm. You just get such an absurd amount of scaling to your mana with this sort of setup. So if you look at my tree right now, that's sort of what's happening. There's a classic Adorned tree. I've done these builds before on the channel. It's been a while though, but yeah, generally the way you build Adorned is you just want a bunch of voices. So yeah, we have a bunch of 3 passives here that I'm just pathing towards and taking any jewels on the way because they're just that good. It's not like every jewel is like 8% EHP damage or something like that. Like it's maybe even more than that. It's really strong. So it's hard to avoid doing anything else. But yeah, that is the whole thing there. I am using one of the new Ascendancies, so I'm using the Feral one, so for the Summon Spectral Tigers, pretty classic thing that a lot of the Wonders are using. This basically just makes it so that every time you crit, you summon a cat, and the cat gives you a buff. All in all, this thing gives you a very consistently 125% increased crits, and then 35% increased attack speed, so that's pretty strong. And the uptime is basically permanent. These things spawn all the time, and it's just always on crit. And yeah, it's really nice, really consistent. There's some other good choices. I think Oshabi could be quite good, but you need quite a bit of more rage. I tried Oshabi out, but you need a little bit more rage gen than I had, because I didn't have full uptime. But that thing could be good. And then also, I think the actual endgame one is probably going to be the Breach one for the damage reduction, I imagine. But yeah, I'll have to look into that a bit more. But for now, I really like this, because this gives you just a bunch of attack speed and crit. Generally, the new Bloodline Ascendancies are really nice for Hierophant in particular, because Hierophant is a 3 Ascendancy class, and it pretty much has always been for non-totem builds. Because like, if you look at any Hierophant, like this is generally the setup, right? Unless you're doing totems, and then you have like the last 2 points, and usually what people did was like, they just took these two or something, these two small nodes, and that's like so weak, right? Or like those two small nodes or whatever. But yeah, that basically just means all the Bloodline Ascendancies are just pure upside for the Hierophant, which is really, really nice. Otherwise, there's nothing super crazy in here. I am doing melding, so this is a melding build. You can see I'm currently at 89% of the auras. This will be a 90. I just need to basically conflict up the chest piece to 3 instead of 2. I haven't bothered doing that on this chest yet, because I know I'm just going to replace it, so I'm probably going to wait until I make the new chest and then just do it on there, because conflict orbing can be rough. But yeah, so it's a melding, 90 auras for the Elres, and then yeah, Watcher Side mod. The clarity recover when you use a skill is like the most vital one, and then of course the percent mana as extra energy shield is very strong. That's something I didn't go through. As always with the stacker builds, you want to be stacking a thing that scales both your damage and defenses. That's generally the way you make these characters really, really good. Naturally, stacking mana doesn't actually give you any more defenses unless you do Mind Over Matter or something like that, but with Hierophant and with mods like that Clarity mod right there, which gives you top end 10% of your max mana as extra energy shield, alongside the Sanctuary of Thought notable on Hierophant, which gives you another 20% of that, lets your mana also scale your survivability. So you also get some nice little AoE out of it, which is quite cool, because that does scale your Kinetic Blast explosions, which feels pretty nice. And credit where credit is due, this was originally a Will creation. Like the last few leagues, I've just been spoon-fed ideas. I knew I was doing a Kinetic Blast of some sort this league, but I just didn't know what shell. Yeah, and he put together a really endgame version of it, which looked very, very cool. So I figured, why not? Let's do it. So I've been just working towards it and tweaking it and stuff like that since then. So I've really been enjoying it, and yeah, been having a good time. Otherwise, yeah, it's a mage build. Just have a bunch of rare pieces right now with, you know, just resists and int. Int is always very good, because it gives you mana and ES, which is nice. It's not necessarily an int stacker. This character is more mana, but you have a lot of int generally, and it's one of the suffixes you want on all your gear. Otherwise, there's a really good chest mod I'll make eventually, which is the Grasping Mail mod for increased crit chance per overcapped line res. You can put that on a Twilight Regalia and make a really, really good chest that would basically crit cap you for free with this amount of line res. So that's really good. I'll make one eventually. That's the next product in mind, but I haven't quite been able to farm up enough for that yet. I am using Swollen, so for a long time this character I was trying out just doing big hit pool and not having any sort of avoidance or anything. I just don't like the way it feels, so I decided to slot in a Swollen into the character. I think this is this works quite well. It's a little awkward because it has that 123 strength requirement, and it's a little tough getting that much, but I'm solving that right now with just having 2 strength crafts on my gear, which is okay. I'll probably find some more elegant solution for that eventually, but yeah, Fallen of course gives you Lucky Block, which is very, very powerful. That's a very powerful item. I probably don't need to sell you on it. With this character set up right now, I believe effectively I'm spell block capped with Fallen, and then I am a little bit under attack block capped. I think I have my effective block. We can look at this one. I open up the POE, but it's like 68, 89 or something like that. Effective block. So that feels really good. And it also has, Fallen also has the added benefit of having that trigger thing at the end there. Trigger a socketed elemental skill and block. There's some stuff you can do with that. Right now I'm just using it for sigil power. So sigil power, of course, you know, puts a thing on the ground that scales your damage and defenses when you spend mana in it. So it's really nice having that automated. It just makes you not have to press a button, and I mean, you block your stuff all the time anyway, so that's quite convenient. But yeah, Fallen I think is really good on this character, and just having that extra layer of defense feels really good. Using Grace of the Goddess for the wand, this is really good because, as I mentioned, Kinetic Blast of Clustering deals pure fizz damage, and this just gives you a bunch of fizz extra. And then obviously the +1 max number of Sacred Wisps is like, that's like 25% more damage just straight up. So yeah, these wands are really, really hard to beat. Maybe you can make a Mirror Tear wand that beats it, but I'd be surprised. I've not seen one yet. Maybe it would be like an Influence one or something. I don't know. Maybe I'll pop that at some point. But these are really, really good, especially since you can get the Tempering Orb enchant there to scale all those different values. Yeah, it's very hard to beat a well-rolled Grace of the Goddess character, which is nice because they're pretty cheap overall. As for the flasks, I'm doing, you know, just the standard on Mage Flood setup for the flasks, and then I'm using Roomies for the unique flask. You could also do stuff like Cinder Swallow. I like Roomies with a setup for... I like Roomies with the Swollen setup because, you know, that extra block is really nice. As for like auras and like reservation stuff, the big one is Spellslinger, of course, Spellslinger Tornado. You pretty much have to have this with a skill. That's a requirement. And then I have Clarity for the Watcher's Eye. That's just a level 1 Clarity. And of course, the Vol Clarity interaction that I mentioned earlier. And then I am using a Tempest Shield setup. So this gives me a bunch of spell block and makes me shock immune, which is quite nice. And then I have Precision on there for the extra little bit of crit and accuracy. Eventually, I'll probably drop this, but for now, it is nice. And that is very cool. I decided not to go fully ailment immune on this character because I just don't think it's really necessary. I'm getting chill immunity from the boots, from the Moonseed Unveil. I'm getting freeze immunity from the Pantheon. I'm getting shock immunity from Tempest Shield. Those are like the big ones that matter. Ignites, I don't really care much about. I don't even notice it because, of course, 90 max res and just big hit pool. Ignites don't really touch me at all. And then there's the alt ailments, which of course they do work, but it's not really that big of a deal. I generally think the setup is pretty fine, and it's a bit of work getting anything else. I mean, you could do like Storm Shroud, but that would eat up a jewel slot, which those are very, very premium in this character, and also it would eat up a flask suffix. I don't think it's worth for the tiny little benefit there. I think the setup works really well. And then there's the new Room Drafts this league. I'm not put too much thought into this. I'm currently using the Jolt one. The Jolt one is pretty good. This gives you Jolt stacks whenever you crit an enemy, which gives you more max attack damage and also gives you sort of a mini shock on yourself. Each Jolt stack gives you 1% increased damage taken, but also gives you 2% more maximum attack damage. If you're a regular lightning damage build, this is really good because, of course, if you have a big range, then getting more max attack damage is really powerful. It's not super amazing with Kinetic Blast Clustering because, of course, there's no like range to the flat added damage of this skill. So the max added damage is not like amazing, but all in all, this thing right now gives me about 30% more damage at the cost of taking 10% more damage, which is it's honestly not that great of a deal, but I think it's still pretty good. I'm still using it, and I think the character feels tanky enough that I don't really mind. But yeah, it's not bad. The other one I'm just using this Tornado one, which is pretty good. All right, so here is the current POB of the character. Yeah, pretty good survivability. This is without Arcane Cloak, of course. And then, yeah, pretty solid damage for where it's at right now. This damage number is going to spike up as I keep getting upgrades. Again, I keep saying this, but yeah, this character is nowhere near the end of its scaling, which is very fun for me. And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting these numbers up there. And yeah, as I mentioned, I just have no idea how to simulate the amount of hits. I've not even tried. This is the damage, the DPS of one projectile. Of course, you have a bunch of different projectiles and explosions that hit the enemy. So who knows how much DPS you do, but it's probably quite good. Is my hint. So, but yeah, I am Forbidden Flesh and Flaming Radiant Faith. This is the Guardian node that gives you armor equal to 25% of your reserved mana, and then a maximum energy shield equal to 10% of your reserved mana. You might not realize this, but because of this wording, this ES mod is actually quite a bit better than the Guardian gain as extra mod. It's just because of where they are in the calculation. This actually gives you more, so it's quite a strong node. It gives me 4k energy shield just straight up, which is nice. The armor is actually not irrelevant either. Eventually, when you get high enough mana, I think this armor is actually going to be pretty good. Otherwise, I'm taking some block nodes here for SebWall, and you can see these are the block numbers right now. I would like the attack block to be higher, but it's just kind of difficult to fit in. There's some stuff you can do, like you can get Impossible Escape, some of the stuff over here. Like I'm currently anointing Split Shot. You really want Split Shot on the Kinetic Blast Clustering build, because if this procs off a fork, you actually do get additional projectiles, which have all the explosion and stuff, so it's actually very powerful, especially with Tornado, which you fork off of. So you do need this somewhere. So I'm anointing it right now. You could use Impossible Escape for acrobatics and then just spec it, and then you can like anoint. There's a bunch of attack block down here. Which one is it? Is it this one? Yeah, this one gives you 12, which would be really good. So you can maybe do something like that. For now, I think this is fine though, because this is plenty of block chance still. It feels pretty good. Spell block cap in particular feels great, especially on bosses and stuff. It feels really nice. I've not actually played Spawn before, so I'm quite enjoying it. The nice part about Grace of the Goddess is you kind of get a bit of everything. When you have this much mana and you stack all this damage, you get a bunch of I'm not converting my damage at all. I still get really big shocks and like freezes on mobs because of the extra lightning and cold with this weapon. It's kind of cool. Config wise on this POB, I had to put the neck percent mana in here because it's not actually supported by POE right now, so that's why that's in there. And then this is from Jolt. It's just the damage, so you have the increased damage taken, and then the stats you get from it. And then, yeah, this is from the Feral's Ascendancy, which is also, I believe, not supported by POB. But yeah, I guess that's it for where this character's at right now. We're about a bit over a week in. I've been playing a lot. You might be able to tell from this gold stack I'm holding right now. I don't know what to do with all this gold, but yeah, might actually reach 100 mid gold on a character for the first time in this league. Yeah, I've been playing a lot, grinding a lot. Next upgrade, as I mentioned, is probably going to be the chest piece. I'm going to try and craft one of those. People have already made mirror tier chests for this sort of build, but I kind of want to make my own because I think that's fun. I think I can probably finance it myself if I just farm enough. I think that should be doable. So that's probably the next crafting project. Maybe I'll have a video on that even for the enjoyers of crafting videos out there. Yeah, otherwise, I mean, eventually these rares are going to get upgraded and everything is going to be upgraded. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Of course, I put a lot of currency into this so far, and I'm going to put even more. Eventually, I'll probably even get a 4-stat reflection, but I've tried hitting that. I'm currently 16 locks deep or something, and yeah, I'm just going to give up. I think this is plenty good for now. If you want to see the character in action or anything, I do stream on Twitch. I don't always stream, but most days I stream, and I streamed a lot of the progress of this character, a lot of the farm for it I did stream, so if you want to check that out, the link is in the description. It's just SebK94 on Twitch. And yeah, we'll have more videos out on the league in the future. I'm quite enjoying it. I know there's a bunch of there's a bunch of stuff as always with the league, but I'm really enjoying it. I'm probably easy to please, but yeah, I'm having a good time, so I'm going to keep playing. Hopefully enjoyed, and thanks for watching, and I'll be back in the next one.